Happy Jupiter Day, Collective. I just wanted to check in because it occurred to me that I think Jupiter or Thursdays is one planetary day that I have not made a video on yet. So I wanted to do something a little bit different today, partially because I wanted to show off one of my favorite little small bonsai plants because it's got this beautiful little ornament of Jupiter that I just keep out all year. And as you can see, there's like a little spray painted gold dinosaur with some little fungi plant ornament down there, and then just sort of collected materials like some lichen and moss from the yard. There's some permatil as the mulch on top, and I do my little evangelical spiel on my love for permatil in my one Start Where You Are video so far. So feel free to check that out. I'll probably talk about permatil more in the future, but I want to talk about Jupiter and Thursdays and why it's a good energy to sort of embrace if you're trying to embark on something new, if you're kind of trying to broaden your horizons, if you're trying to if you're thinking about travel, sort of like far away travel that's meant to uh, introduce you to more in the world, to maybe for people on paths of spiritual growth, whatever that looks like for you. Sometimes education is that path. So when we talk about Jupiter, we talk about growth and opportunity. We talk about blessings, enthusiasm, possibilities, good fortune, opportunities, adventure, but also the structures that govern our sense of ethics and morals. Now, ideally that comes from within, but within a society, it generally will denote the law and the legal system and those that fall under that umbrella. So you're also going to see lawyers and judges and professors of higher learning, people that are ordained. All of those things fall into the umbrella of Jupiter, and they are there because they are, in their most pure sense, there to guide us and uphold um, our system of ethics and morals and higher principles. They There's a charitable nature to Jupiter, but as a lawgiver, um, it's it rules with a heavy hand sometimes when necessary. But Jupiter, in its most uninterrupted essence, is about abundance and expansion. It's there's sort of like a beneficial but also sort of autocratic nature to it. There's a bit of rigidity there, but only lightly. And it only has a heavy touch when necessary because Jupiter is known to basically expand upon whatever it touches, so for better or worse. Now, we'll get further into that and into what it means, especially in a birth chart or in the sky at any given point. Whatever Jupiter is touching, it's going to be magnifying and expanding the energies of that sort of neighboring planet. So sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not so good. But in terms of just where it is now in the sky, so forgetting about where it is in your personal birth chart, it is currently in the sign of Taurus. It is retrograde, but again, that's something we're gonna reserve for future videos. We're just gonna stick with the simple things now, which is the planet Jupiter in the sign Taurus. Now, Taurus is fixed Earth energy. So when you associate the archetype of Jupiter with the archetype of Taurus, um, abundance and expansion and possibilities might really be measured in the more tangible things in life. So, of course, that's money because Taurus does rule over financial systems and money. But when you look at, especially, because nothing exists in a vacuum, we 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 consider these things in the context of the world we live in. So, one of the most practical, grounded manifestations of Jupiter and Taurus is an abundant garden. Actually, that's why you know plants and the bounty of nature and all of those things seem to be coming more and more into play, and that's a natural outcome of sort of the considerations of the climate and the environment, and sort of taking more responsibility, uh, and taking more charge of the environment around you, because in the grander scheme of things, there are a lot of things that affect systems that we once thought were infallible, in terms of our food supply and things like that. So I think people, in the spirit of Jupiter in Taurus, but also in trying to take more of a personal role in the environment, and sort of what that means in terms of your sense of everyday abundance, in the quite literal sense, sort of having a bountiful garden is something that sort of bypasses money, doesn't it? And that's, a lot of people found that out during the pandemic, when even if money wasn't an issue, even if access to the grocery store wasn't an issue, it was just not safe to just go every other day and get your fresh produce. So I think, yes, having more time to do these things came into play, but it was also sort of us getting this little taste, this little preview of Jupiter and Taurus. And, if you felt abundant in that sense of satisfaction and almost its own, like, elevation in spirit, you might say, for somebody who had never embarked on having a personal garden before and then found this new success. I think that was kind of preparing everybody, for this period of Jupiter and Taurus, and how the skills and the benefit of being able to tend to plants and know the basics and have a familiarity, of just keeping your own herb garden or growing some tomatoes, just picking one thing, a fruit or a vegetable that you know that you do like and will always want to eat and enjoy. That's the best place to start, is trying to keep something like that. Um, so basically, Taurus, aside from being fixed earth and ruling financial systems, it is about the physical world, and it is about work. Now, the symbol for Taurus, of course, is the bull. You ever wondered what the Wall Street bull was? It's quite literally an astrological symbol right there in the middle of Wall Street. The bull is Taurus. It's like, um, it is it is sort of a sense of creating your own luck by hard work and being steadfast, but also patient, because as a fixed sign, um, and an earth sign, there's a groundedness just sort of built in. And to me, that kind of brings in the Saturnian principle of patience and prolonged effort, steadfastness, in order to be the maker of your own luck. Now, you notice that I have the tarot card, Wheel of Fortune, out here. This is a considered a major arcana card in the tarot, number 10, and this is associated with Jupiter. Now, let's talk about the symbolism on the card a little bit. So, in the clouds right here, you've got animals representing the four fixed elements. You got Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, and Leo. Those are the fixed signs. Aquarius is fixed air, Scorpio is fixed water, Taurus is fixed earth, Leo is fixed fire. Um, at the bottom, you've got, it looks like a devil, but the symbolism of the card is Anubis. So you may or may not know that that is the Egyptian god of the dead, but also represents cycles of life, death, and rebirth. So that sort of denotes principles associated with Scorpio. And if you go back and watch the How to Channel the Energy of Mars and Scorpio video, I talk about how on the wheel, Taurus and Scorpio are sister signs. They sit on the exact opposites of one another. Those are considered sister signs. So the energy is very similar, they just manifest differently. And we'll talk more about those kind of complementary pairs as we go on in these videos. But um, Anubis sitting at the bottom of the wheel, and then at the top you've got the Sphinx, and the Sphinx is there representing just the diversity of life. It's a multifaceted creature itself, so it's there to essentially remind us of the diversity of life and the multifaceted nature of fortune itself, and how um, often when the wheel spins, just like the cycles of life tend to do, the winner one day is, kind of finding themselves at the bottom of the wheel the next day. And in order to win, you sometimes have to lose. And, I think it's a helpful thing to remember, because without periods of being, when you feel like the wheel is turning and you're at the bottom, how could you possibly recognize the other end of it? How could you possibly recognize a turn in fortune but for having been, where Anubis is? The snake, it's in a downward spiral to the left of the wheel. That's generally representative of the challenges that everyone must face. Like, it's facing downward. It sort of implies like an inevitability of the downward nature of fortune in a lot of cases. So the Wheel of Fortune, when it comes up in a reading, it's, you know, we won't get into reversals, but the Wheel of Fortune showing up in any reading as a major arcana card and representing cycles of change, you're pretty much going to see that as uh, a higher sort of universal energy at the wheel at that point. So, every reader has their own approach, but if the Wheel of Fortune is coming up, that generally means that that is an energy governing the collective at that time. And depending on how the wheel spinning will affect you is very much going to be an individual case by case thing. And that's kind of where I encourage everybody to get more used to slowing down and contemplating these energies, because there's nothing special about me or anyone else that has tarot decks or that has learned about these things. I hope that this channel sort of introduces you to the idea that this is all accessible to everybody. And the way to do that is by sort of suspending your beliefs in certain areas about what you assume is or isn't. And in the spirit of Jupiter, broadening your horizons, entertaining things that, ideas that don't even mean a discarding of all of yours. It's sort of inviting you to consider that there are more things at play than meet the eye in a lot of cases. And at least in my personal experience, that has been quite a relief, to be honest. And I really hope that you take this just this little video as an invitation to sit back with your own intuition and sort of see what it's telling you. We commonly refer to it as gut feeling sometimes, but I don't know. I think that that's maybe overused. But everyone has intuition. It's just a matter of how distracted, um, by no fault of your own in a lot of cases. Modern life has a lot of demands, and a lot of contradictory ones at that. But I think that the more in touch with your own intuition you are, the more able you will be to, consider where the Wheel of Fortune is spinning in the context of your own life, and um, what you would consider good fortune, and what in your life you might currently be considering bad fortune, and why. Why are you considering that bad fortune? Is it simply because it's a period of discomfort, or is it something else? And this isn't to suggest that if you think something's bad in your life, well, it's all in your head. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if there is ever a time in life um, to sit with these things that you consider bad fortune, if there's a way to find some sort of turning a negative, what looked like a negative, into a positive, this would be a great time to do that. Especially with the upcoming lunar eclipse in Taurus, where, like I said, Jupiter currently is. Um, Taking control, like I said, the energy of Taurus very much rewards putting in the effort in the physical world, even if it's just to reconceptualize the way something is in your life and to try to sit there and find a way to turn that into a plus for yourself by your own efforts in the 3D world. And that's going to look very different for everyone. So that's my 2 cents. It's an approach that has helped me tremendously because, after all, energy is energy. So bad energy is still a resource. Like, struggle, which creates bad energy in yourself and you feel it's angst, that's still a resource. And you look at like a lot of the influences in the world right now, I think it's become kind of obvious that if you can't harness good energy, if you can't uplift others and create that sort of collective good feeling, that sort of pure, unadulterated, just energy that everyone knows that it's palpable, the next best thing is to create bad energy because it is a resource. Energy is energy. So, I would be wary of anything in your life that tends to always uh, give rise to those negative energies in you that keep you angry or keep you worked up because someone else is the beneficiary of that energy, and you might as well steer it back and alchemize it and make it yours. So, getting back to these symbols that you see here for Jupiter, we've got the symbol right there on the tin can. And tin is a metal associated with Jupiter, so that is why these flowers are in this tin can with the symbol of Jupiter. And we also associate the color purple with with the planet of Jupiter. So, in this little arrangement, I've got some cuttings of Persian Shield, which is one of my favorite. I don't know if it blooms, to be honest. Like, it's just the pretty purple leaves. Uh, like a lot of things, a lot of times things that I don't know bloom under really good conditions end up blooming. So I've actually never seen it bloom. But I took some cuttings earlier today because I wanted to make sure before it got too cold and the one plant I have kind of dies back. I wanted to have some cuttings going so that I had one ready for the spring, but also just for the prettiness of them in the house. And then the flower stems that you see there, those are cuttings from what is called the Lavender Plectranthus. Now, I broke my general rule of not wasting money on annuals because I am like, well, if I'm going to buy a plant, I want it to be a perennial so it'll last and come back. But this one, it was one of those cases where I had to break the rule. I saw it at Lowe's, so there's tons of them. I'm pretty sure if you went there now, you would get some. But it's an easy care plant. It likes partial sun. So same with the Persian Shield, which is sort of like a shade type of plant. Even dappled sunlight would be just fine. You could put these two together in a container, and they would be quite happy together, I think. But I'm gonna try. I've never tried to get rooted cuttings of this Lavender Plectranthus, but since it is an annual, and I'm determined to not have it die back and be gone by the time the spring comes, we're going to try that out and see if I can't root these cuttings and keep it going through the winter just for fun. So I guess I think that covers the symbolism of Jupiter. One last thing though, in the background, you see, let me turn this camera a little bit. In that clay pot right there, you see my sage plant, the herb of sage. That is also associated with the planet Jupiter. So there are other herbs generally associated with Jupiter, but the only one that I happen to have was a sage plant. And sage is generally it's a cleansing type of, or you've heard of sage burning, like saging out the bad spirits, bundles of sage, and burning and walking around with it. but it's generally associated with memory, conscious mind, wisdom, and money. So it's been used since, I mean, as early as like 15th, 16th century, and in lots of religious rituals. American Indians utilized it in their ceremonies and religious rituals, but it's often used in combination with like visualization, and especially when you bring in the principles of abundance associated with Jupiter. You might say that you have your like little sage ritual, whatever it is that you give meaning to, that is a ritual, something that you do all by yourself that you attach meaning to. And you visualize something that you want to bring into your life, whatever abundance means to you. um, it would be argued that using dried sage in those little rituals and practices would be helpful. So again, just like anything else, the meaning is, it comes from you. And something that is meaningless to one person could have totally different value to another. And that's because you are a co-creator of that value. And so I hope that pointing to these little natural elements and sort of the symbolism, when you see a tarot card and you just think, oh, that's witchy stuff. Well, the pictures are very much part of it. Yeah, there are meanings um, to attach to it when it comes out, especially when you look at surrounding cards. But tarot is really just a tool for understanding energy, understanding unseen things, but specifically the ones surrounding you, like the things that are at play in your own consciousness or subconscious, and sitting there and encouraging to slow down and reflect on those things, and maybe try to see something from a different angle that you hadn't considered before. So that covers Jupiter, Thursdays, planet of growth, opportunity, expansion, blessings, and possibilities. And as a little side note for anyone interested, we've only touched on the house system in astrology, but Jupiter is the ruler of the ninth house in astrology, and the ninth house is generally associated with some of the principles I've already touched on, just travel, specifically foreign travel, faraway places, travel meant to broaden your horizons. For some people, that doesn't have to be far away, but generally associated with some sort of pilgrimage. It's very ninth house. Going away to study something, higher education, that's definitely ninth house material. But also religion and cross cultural studies and relations, learning, ethics, the law, all those things. So, if you have any questions about anything that I've talked about in this video, leave a comment. If you have anything that you want to add, say you know a little something about anything that I've said. I love somebody being able to teach me something new about anything I've talked about. I'm not trying to gatekeep any of this because I'm still always learning and soaking up things about all of this stuff. So otherwise, just have a nice remainder of your Jupiter day, and just remember that luck is with you. But more important than anything, um, you have to believe that yourself. You have to embrace that spirit of Jupiter and make your own luck based on your approach and efforts and steadfastness in this 3D world that we all share. Until next time.